What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Live Loud Life podcast. My name is Dr. Antonio, your host of the Live Loud Life podcast. My wife and I, we own Live Loud Chiropractic and Coaching. We are based here in Lafayette, Colorado, which is in Boulder County and just north of Denver. So if you're local and you're looking for some help and you need a little bit of love, we'd love to help you guys out. If you're not local, we do offer virtual consultations where we set up a call. Excuse me. We can help you workshop and work through some of the issues that you're having. Our big philosophy is helping you and advocating for you to have an active role in your recovery. Many times when we're dealing with aches and pains or anything like that, it's usually a more passive approach, meaning, hey, you need to come in and get X, Y, and Z done, or I need to administer, help you with these exercises. We believe that you need to understand and how your body moves, how it operates, how to fuel it, so on and so forth. Now, yes, we are chiropractors. We do manual therapy. We do know the benefit of that. But if we can help fill the gap for some of the information or knowledge that maybe you're not getting from your other providers or practitioners, we'd love to do that. Oftentimes these consultations are just, it's almost just like a sounding board session. We want to listen and hear what your goals are, and we kind of hear where you're at, and we help you kind of just navigate and make some suggestions on how to get there. And that's where we're going with today. So today, one of the things that we have conversations around a lot is working out and training, right? This is exercise, fitness, whatever you want to call it. This is obviously a big component of our life. And as you'll commonly hear me say, there's seasons of life where things go up and down and, it gets crazy, from time to time, depending on what's going on. But ultimately, we know, and most people know, that this is important. And we know that most people are trying to accomplish this. And who this is for is this is for a lot of people who are doing boot camps and different classes, especially online classes at home, or just you working out on your own. If you're going to, and this is more directed towards let's say like a CrossFit class, right? Their program is a lot more dialed in, right? Where they're kind of help you navigate, hey, during this cycle, we're going to be building weights, and the rep schemes and the sets and reps of going up and down are obviously a lot more calculated and dialed in. Not to say that the boot camps and other ones are not. I'm not saying that. But for many of you, you're working out at home, and it's kind of like, hey, I've been doing this workout for like the last 5 to 10 years, and it's the same thing. It's the same weights. It's the same, right? And it could be providing everything that you need. So there's nothing wrong with that. But one of the questions that we get is like, well, how do I know how much weight to use or how many sets and reps to use? And so, excuse me. We're going to very, very briefly and kind of superficially give some of those recommendations. Now, there is a definite art and science to resistance training and weightlifting and everything that we're talking about here. And if that's you and you're interested in that, this is again, more of a superficial level. There's definitely a ton of resources out there to get that knowledge and information. But we kind of wanted to help you navigate this overarching view, if you will. So when you're looking at it, and this is not getting into exercise selection and philosophy, we're talking about adding weights, so on and so forth. And we'll probably try to use some specifics to create a little bit of context. But that being said, what we're looking at here is how do you know what weights to do? Now, if that's your question, that usually indicates to us that the experience that you have weightlifting is probably a little bit less, and that's fine. That's not meant to be hurtful or anything, but having that question indicates that we have not done a lot of lifting or time to know, what kind of how to manipulate and add that. And we were all there at some point. It's kind of I don't know, do I go heavier? Do I not go heavier? What weight do I use? We try to start with, well, hey, first and foremost, do you know how to do the movement? That's important, right? Because if you know how to do the movement well and appropriately, then adding weight's not going to be a concern. If you don't know or you're unsure, that's where you would get a consultation, a trainer, whatever that is, to determine how to do the movement appropriately so that we can add more load. Because if we're adding more load and we don't know what we're doing, that could be a recipe for possible injury. But most people start off with, which again, for you, if listening to this, most people start off with something like 3 sets of 10, which is great. It's a great starting point, really easy to understand and know. So what weight would you choose? Well, if this is, you're just kind of coming back into something, obviously you're going to err on the lighter side and just kind of go through the motions, which is fine. If you've been doing it for a while and now you're kind of at this point, hey, I want to try to add a little bit more, we want to look at tough at 10, right? What weight could you do that feels tough at that 10th rep? Now, not impossible. Tough at 10 might be maybe 3, maybe 5 reps in reserve, meaning after that 10th rep, you only have a few reps in reserve. That's a pretty good starting point to start eliciting some adaptation for strength, which is the reason why we're doing weightlifting, right? So tough at 10 is a nice little starting point to determine what to do. Now you have a frame, or now you kind of have like a baseline, right? Okay, cool. Well, we'll just use an example. Let's say we're doing goblet squats, right? 25 pounds is tough at 10. And that's now you have a set and rep scheme, and you have a weight. And now we can play around with these numbers, right? Now, ultimately too, we have to look back at what our goals are, right? Again, in this situation, if this question is being asked more times than not, most people are saying, I want to get a little bit stronger. I want to feel better. And I want to maintain some mobility. I want to tone up maybe a little bit, add a little muscle, lose a little fat, all those types of things, right? Now, again, what's great is if you are asking these questions and we maybe weren't doing as much before, anything we do will help you reach those goals. If you have been doing the exact same thing for years, well, anything we do differently will help you achieve those goals because we're now mixing it up. Right? We're forcing the body to change and adapt because we've created this novel stimulus that it's not used to, and it will start to change, right? And that's part of what we're trying to do is add some things, take some things away, go a little heavier, go a little lighter. It's this constant variable of kind of manipulations that really starts to challenge the body in multiple different ways. And that's the beauty behind it, right? So coming back and trying to, again, stay as somewhat specific as we can to not make things complicated, right? We got a goblet squat. We got 3 sets of 10, and we got 25 pounds, okay? So we're going to be running that for, maybe 1 to 2 weeks, a couple times a week, so on and so forth. So now that you're starting to feel, you're like, okay, well, 25 pounds, starting to feel a little easier, starting to feel a little bit lighter. Wonderful. We can start to take that up a little bit, right? Let's go, if you're doing dumbbells, you can go to 27 and a half. You can go to 30 pounds. Okay. Now, what most do in this situation, we remain at 3 sets of 10 and just start adding more weight. Not wrong, but what you're going to find is you're going to very quickly cap out, right? Because you're doing the exact same amount of volume with heavier loads, and that's much harder for your body to adapt and handle. So what we typically suggest trying as you're doing this, and it really just depends on the how big of a weight jump you make. But let's say, for instance, you went from 25 to 35, 3 sets of 10 with that. What's quick math on that, right? It's nearly a third. It's a little bit more than like a third, 33% increase. It's more than a third of an increase. That's a big jump in weight, and you're doing the exact same 3 sets of 10. Now, being that it's still kind of in a lighter load, if you will, depending on the person, obviously, you might be able to accomplish that fine. But for someone else, that might just be way too much. But yet that next jump up, if they only had that 25 to 35 pound options, what do? Well, you manipulate the sets and reps, right? So we were doing 3 sets of 10. If the 10-pound jump is really, really heavy and big, but yet you can do some, well, we might say, hey, let's start 3 sets of 3. So we significantly drop down how many reps you're doing from 10 to 3, which allows you to do the heavier weight, right? The heavier weight to be able to complete it with proficiency and safety, so on and so forth. So that would be a valid option to allow you to choose a heavier weight. We're just going to start to manipulate the sets and reps. Now, what you could also see how this could also play out is, let's say, for instance, you have like a medium, heavy, and light day throughout the week. So we're doing goblet squats 3 days a week. We have a medium day, a heavy day, and a light day. So your heavy might be 35 pounds, your medium might be 25 pounds, and then your light might be, let's just say 15 pounds, right? So you might be doing like 5 sets of 10 for the light, 3 sets of 10 with the medium, and 3 sets of 3 with the heavy, right? 3 sets of 3 reps. So you'll see how the volume for each one of those obviously changes based on the weight that you're using, okay? Now, again, all this kind of has to come back to the goals, but based on the goals that we set, right? Get stronger, add some muscle, lose some fat, tone up a little bit, maintain mobility. That would work really well for what that person's trying to accomplish without a lot of complexity, right? And it allows you to stay consistent, and consistency really is your key when you're looking back for completing all these things. What helps you complete the most amount of work throughout the week consistently, week after week, month after month, year after year, right? While still mixing it up. Because again, we're trying to get out of the mode of, hey, I've been doing the exact same workout where I hit shoulders, back, legs, so on and so forth. I got my weights dialed in. I do 3 sets of 10 of everything. Or for, honestly, for most people, it's, I just go until I can't do anymore. I blast it and then I cycle through, so on and so forth. Nothing wrong with that, different goals perhaps, but just that's what we're trying to say. So now, again, that was kind of that first initial thing to at least get us a starting point of how to add weight and change weight. So the 3 sets of 10 or tough at 10s, a really good place to start. This could be no different if we're talking about pressing, if we're talking about like TRX rows, if we're talking about deadlifts, lunges, that's a good place to start. Now, as a side note, when we're talking about certain levels of strength, right? When we're talking about getting stronger, there's different elements of strength that I want you to kind of take in consideration. Because when you look at let's say like a bodybuilder, obviously strong, and they're oftentimes doing these failure sets, high rep, lighter weights where you're going to a lot of pump and a lot of fatigue to elicit a certain adaptation for hypertrophy and growth and also strength. But you can't do that with heavy weights, right? So the heavier weights, as we were saying, we're doing 3 sets of 3. So when you're looking at strength development, which will come with some muscle building and hypertrophy, but a lot of that strength development is from a neural component. That neuromuscular relationship is really being enhanced through that. And from a fatigue standpoint, to elicit being stronger, you have to lift heavier weights. And in doing so, you can't do those 3 to 5 sets of 10 plus 10, 12, 15 reps, or whatever it is. You're more likely going to be staying in, 3, maybe 5 sets with 3 to no more than really 5 reps. So a 5x5 set, that's still 25 total reps of work. And you'll be able to do a heavy weight with that. And it really just kind of depends on how it's programmed and put into play with how much rest. But oftentimes when you're looking at doing like deadlifts and squats and these bigger compound movements where you're adding a ton of weight and you're trying to lift heavier weight, right? You might only be doing no more than 10 total reps. So that might be a 3x3, which is 9 reps, 5x2, which is 10 reps, right? Or you could just go 10 sets of 1. You see what we're saying here? But if you're doing that without a heavy enough weight, you're not going to really most likely be eliciting the adaptation that you're looking for. So again, coming back to the person here listening to this and unsure, that's probably not going to be where you're at. But notice it did come into play when we were talking about having a light, medium, and heavy day, right? Because again, oftentimes we're not hitting that kind of edge and we're staying at the comfortable weight, which is completely valid and fine if you're newer on and you're still trying to just figure out exercise technique and everything like that. But if you're the person who's been doing the same, and I got obviously someone in mind here, been doing the exact same workout for 10 years and nothing's changed, you've increased weight, obviously, when we're mixing it up here, going heavier than what you were doing, we're going to drop those sets and reps to not hurt the body and overstress it, so on and so forth. So, congratulations, taking this next step of trying to figure out, hey, what do I need to do to get stronger? Well, we know we need to lift some weights. I don't know what movements. I don't know how many sets. I don't know how many reps. I don't know what weight to choose. You got to start playing around. Now, I will add, getting a trainer, getting a coach, doing a consultation, something that helps you get a starting point. It helps with a lot of the kind of uncertainty and starting off, and that might just save you some time and effort. Not that you have to go with someone that has like a very, very long program, but oftentimes just finding someone who's like, hey, I need you to help me just kind of get going. That's a great place to start, and then you can kind of take off from there. I hope this was helpful. This is, again, the approach that I took years ago as I was starting to get into weightlifting. I had some people that was helping out, so I was following someone. That's also super beneficial. Have a buddy who's been doing it. But I like exploring and trying to learn things on my own. So I'd watch videos on technique, exercise selection, so on and so forth. I'd practice the movement, film myself, watch those videos side to side, compare and see how it's playing and working out, and then practice the movement, see how it felt. Am I able to lift more? Did I create any injuries or sore spots where it shouldn't be? And then I would just kind of play with those. And then as I started to learn more and more, then I started to change the weights and the rep schemes based on my goals, based on all the research that's out there on exercise science, right? There's a lot of people put a ton of efforts in on how to elicit the best response that you want. But again, if you're the at-home doer who's just looking to maintain this level of health and fitness and get a little stronger, a little tone, lose a little bit of fat, this is the way to do it. Push, pull, hinge, squat, carry. Add some light days, add some medium days, add some heavy days. Get outside, walk, drink water. You see, it doesn't take rocket science here, but oftentimes that first hurdle of choosing the right weight in the rep scheme can seem very daunting if you have not done a lot of it. So hopefully this helps you get kickstarted a little bit and at least point you in the right direction to hopefully get some momentum. But do not hesitate to reach out for help. It really saves you a lot of time, money, and effort in the long run. Just getting a little bit of guidance and direction if you feel like you keep hitting these roadblocks or speed bumps that are significantly slowing you down. So happy lifting. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're digging the content. And if you have any special requests for topics to chat about or any exercises you want us to workshop or break down or go through, we'd love to hear that so we can make this as applicable to you and the things that you have going on. So until next time, guys, live loud.